Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar presented by Blue Sky. It's on bolstering digital channels. I hope you'll find this interesting, and specifically today we're going to try and keep things as practical as possible. So I'm going to be looking for your help to ask as many questions as possible. So please do step in at any time during the presentation and ask me a question. I'm happy to stop and actually dig into it. That's kind of more important than actually just playing back all the content. So without further ado, let's get started. As you can see on our agenda, we're going to start with just a quick introduction to Blue Sky. We'll do a little history lesson about different types of channels and products and the customer. We'll then look at omni-channel versus multi-channel. We'll discuss communities, then what drives customers crazy. And at that point, hopefully you'll laugh, but you'll only laugh because there are mistakes that we actually make on a regular basis. We'll then kick into some real life success stories. So all is not lost. There's definitely a way to get this, looking good. We've got then a video presented by Salesforce with an integration out the box to WhatsApp, which is quite cool. And at the end, obviously, we can discuss how we can help you in your specific business needs. Probably using a workshop or something like that to dig into your use case and see how we can actually bring this to life for you. So yeah, today's host, that's me. My name's Matt Wright. Short version, sort of as you can see from the lack of hair and the grayness, I've sort of, quite experienced. I've worked around the world, quite a lot of time spent in the UK in the financial services sector. And then I've also worked in Europe, Australia, South Africa, and quite a few other African countries. So yeah, I've been around the block, and if there's anything today I'd like to get across is the practical nature of what we're going to do. It's not a theoretical discussion or pie in the sky. You can Google that very easily. Today is going to be practical. And I'll leave you with this very important piece of information, which is, and I saw this on the roof of a hotel bar in Las Vegas many years ago. It says, common sense, so rare, it's kind of a superpower. So a lot of what we're going to do today hopefully will feel obvious to you, and if it is, then that's great. That means you're identifying with it strongly, and I guess we should, because in one way or another we are all customers of all the companies that are out there as well. So we wear two hats, one as a customer and one obviously in our day jobs working for the various organizations that we are part of. So yeah, remember that part. Common sense will always prevail in these scenarios, whether it's a systems discussion or something about marketing or the customer. So that's a little takeaway for you to put in there. So yeah, let's start off with digital transformation. That's really where this all comes from. And everybody is busy on their digital transformation journey at the moment. Some find it quite difficult, depending on the legacy sort of nature of your business. If you work for a very old business, maybe insurance or banking, you've got a lot of customers and probably many different systems. You've probably got many different versions of the customer information, and you're trying to do everything because that's generally what corporates or bigger companies tend to do. They have sort of quite, famous for having one of everything. But really the goal is to simplify it and make it focused around your customer. So today we'll look at how we decide on which solutions fit your business best, what your customers really actually want, and then how to deliver the real useful benefits. So not just things that we think are good, what are the benefits that are useful for the customer? What should we do first? Because that's where we need to get started. And then very importantly, understanding the difference between value and cost. Sometimes the best solution is not the cheapest one, usually always, but somewhere in the middle, I do believe there is a true value proposition, and we'll have a look at that as well. Obviously, we need to do things, fitting into our existing budgets. And so specifically today, I'm not going to talk a lot about, or at all really, about sort of, the coronavirus and all the changes that have happened. I think everybody's very, very much aware of that. So that is a big part of why we're having these discussions. But I think that's just a reason to ramp up our digital transformation and, sort of start working in a new and better way. So just some quick stats for you. More than 50% of companies that have been surveyed, and some of the research that I've been doing, said that they're going to reduce the amount of office space that they have. I know quite a few companies that have already, practically changed offices or gone month to month. So that's definitely going to ramp up the digital part of all the sales processes and the way the customers engage with us. Secondly, mobile apps and e-commerce is up. I mean, again, this should be very obvious. The day that e-commerce was allowed again, it went completely off the charts. Data usage, another good example is that, it's up at least 2.5 times in the last couple of months for obvious reasons, more people working from home, etc. So again, this is just fueling the fire in terms of the digital transformation process. And if you can believe that, while most companies are dealing with some pretty big challenges at the moment, Amazon is hiring 100,000 new staff. So that really does kind of wrap up for me the fact that we do need to ramp up our, the digitizing of our businesses, going forward. Cool. So let's kick on to customers and products. Quite simply, this is the history lesson part. And in the old days, maybe even 5 years ago, but certainly longer than that, it was more difficult to make things than it was to sell them. And the reason was that we simply were further behind in our technological advancements. So if you wanted to buy something, you really had to scout around more than you do now to find a good one or any one at all. And the onus basically was really pushed onto the customer to do the hard work, find the products that they actually wanted, source them, get hold of them. And in the old days, again, things used to break more. So there would be a whole cycle that the customer had to manage more than the businesses would actually do. So quite simply, in the old days, the onus was always put on the customers to do more of the hard work. And as a result of these products and the sort of complexities of building, designing, maintaining, managing all of them, all of our systems were product-centric. So you'll probably hear of systems like product administration systems, or ERP, or enterprise resource planning, the likes of SAP and Oracle, the sort of giants of the yesteryear. Still obviously very big because a lot of companies still rely on them heavily. And that really is where the challenge comes in, is that a lot of companies, or most big ones, have complex product-related systems as the core business systems. Of course, into the internet and various other advancements. And nowadays, the customer is at the center of the way that we do business. So products are easy to make. Everybody can access them. We have the internet. We've got incredibly powerful search. To find the best deal on anything it takes you a couple of seconds. In fact, quite often or with Takealot, for example, in South Africa. So you literally hop on there, you're going to get the best price. A couple of taps later, you're going to get free shipping and your products arrive. And I'm sure Amazon, they have same day delivery. It's just unheard of compared to, the businesses of 5-10 years ago. And again, that really means that all of our modern systems are customer centric. So you'll hear, the likes of old school CRM, and more in the Salesforce space, we talk more of, customer success stories or sales success. That really is the new way of doing business. So ultimately, what we're trying to figure out now is how to balance the product related systems and the customer focused systems. Only one of them can be the master. And this really is where we are in our sort of global IT journey, is the migration from the one to the other. So with that, of course, the next step in the journey is all around the expectation. So customers nowadays expect everything to be delivered in real time at the best price, and they can have that. So if your business isn't able to compete at that level, then I think adding channels or ways of engaging with your customers is definitely a good way to do that. So let's have a look at the traditional versus digital life cycles. Again, common sense prevailing. On the left-hand side, you can see the customer would go out and discover products. They then explore and research them, buy them, and then the engagement happens. If you switch across to the right, you'll see that the journey is far more complex now, and the customers are, in one way, exposed to many, many different ways of interacting with companies. And that is a good and a bad thing in the same time, because too much information can sort of muddy the water, and it becomes a bit confusing as to what maybe your value proposition is or how to engage. So that complexity, again, double-edged sword. And today we're going to look through some examples of what good and bad looks like on how to navigate that better. The next quick discussion point is about omni-channel versus multi-channel. As should be evident from the picture, the previous buzzword was multi-channel, and that was all around, quote, getting as many digital channels as you could. What you'll see from the image there is that different people or personalities and personas all tend to pick a specific channel and go with that. And that works well to a point, but the real secret sauce now, and why omni-channel as a definition exists, is that specifically a customer is able now to jump between different channels during the sales process. So they may see an ad on your website, they may engage on the mobile app and upload documents or do research or find out more information about the product. And they may have to end the sales process, maybe even on the telephone, for regulatory or certain legal requirements. And you'll see the physical shop is there as well. That hasn't gone away. It's just another channel, in the process. So the key takeaway here is that channel hopping between the different channels is what omni-channel is all about. This diagram, I'll leave it in here, and I've put it in specifically because we'll send the deck out and you can spend a lot more time in your own time having a look at this. But if you look through, you'll see all of the different channels that the customers are exposed to and how and when they typically engage, with your business. And this is quite important because if you look at the social networks, they're more on the right-hand side towards advocacy and promotion of your products. They can play in different places, but social media, and we'll see this later in the presentation again, it can be quite a double-edged sword. If you've got lots of positive reviews, that's amazing. But as soon as there's an issue, the customers tend to leave very negative reviews that are in a very, very public space. So this is quite an important one. I think it just takes a little bit more time to read through. So I'll leave it in here and we'll skip on to the next step. So a couple of quick terms. You can see digital. Again, I just want to make it really, really clear because we often talk about these things and don't really understand what they are. Great example is an API, which everybody bands about quite easily. But let's have a look at digital. So quite simply, moving your business workflows to an online digital solution, mobile apps, website, etc. An example can also be scanning paper contracts. So there are a number of companies that I've worked with, mostly in the financial space, where they literally have a dedicated warehouse full of documents, paper documents that are related to the customer, sales and policies from the past. So a lot of them are in the process now of literally scanning them into a digital format, and then more importantly, indexing them so that you can actually search for them. So finding the things is actually one of the major issues that a lot of companies have right now. Right, so channel examples, you saw quite a few there, but just to kind of rehash, it's not just the social media that we're talking about. It includes physical buildings, websites, email, online chat, and yes, even fax, which I normally would laugh at, but I deal with a number of legal firms, and specifically them in the medical profession. Their fax is still very much alive and kicking. Again, from a legal point of view, fax is still very much an accepted form of communication. Great. So MDM, or Master Data Management, you may have heard this great buzzword. You can use it at the next dinner party that you go to. But quite simply, this really is understanding your customer with all the real and true facts about that person. So in the evolution of most businesses, they'll end up having many different systems to manage the customers. And that tends to end up with all the different systems having a different view of the customer information. So of course, we're after a single view of the customer. So a lot of big companies specifically are going through these quote MDM programs, which quite simply is having a new database or data source or system that is the source of truth for all of the customer information. So that would have the correct name, it would have the most up-to-date phone number, and it would have a list hopefully of all the different products that they purchased and when they did, with all their accompanying information. And the reason that that's so important is that, for example, when somebody calls your business up for help and you start to market a certain product to them that they already have, it's very annoying for the customer, and they immediately realize that you don't actually know who they are and what they've bought. Okay, communities. So this is really the whole sort of new way of working, and you'll see the communities and getting your customers to sell for you. So communities give your customer a voice, and when they're used correctly, your customers actually become an extension of your business. So they're the ones who will then make your products and services available to others in a credible and trusted way. It almost sounds too good to be true, but just take a second to think about the best and worst purchase experience that you had recently and how you responded. I bet you anything that you complained about the bad one and showered the good supplier with praise and then recommended those services to your friends. I'm a bit of a Take-A-Lot fan. I shop a lot online, and I would recommend Take-A-Lot to anybody. By contrast, I ordered something from another leading IT supplier recently. I still haven't received the item after 2 months, and it's just been an endless drama trying to actually get a refund. So it just really highlights the stark difference between what good and bad looks like. So community is definitely the way of working going forward. It does, of course, as we mentioned previously, brings that transparency into the equation, and we'll get onto how to do that better in a few minutes. Cool. So the next thing is how to make your customers crazy, which is obviously not what we want to do. And I think the crazy eggs kind of sum up everything I'm about to talk to you now. So I've got a nice juicy real world example right at home in South Africa, which is technically B2C. So our good old Department of Home Affairs. I think by now you already know what I'm going to say, but I'll run you through it anyway. And it's not just for whether they're good or bad. It's the fact that they actually have two different options or ways of working at the moment. And I think the bit that I think they could improve on is how they market or advertise, the second option. So option one obviously is walking into the Department of Home Affairs building. You wait in multiple queues. It's very, very distracting. There are lots of people all over the place. I've actually been there recently to register our new baby. And yeah, it took us 7 different visits to the department to actually get what we needed to do. But the short version is it's very, very manual. It's physical only. And it's generally a negative experience for anybody that has to deal with it. I don't think there's anybody that looks forward to visiting the Department of Home Affairs. And of course, it's exacerbated by the fact that you will speak to friends, perhaps who live overseas, and their Department of Home Affairs probably takes 20 minutes to pop in and get something done. Passports take a couple of days to get printed. So yeah, it's just a difficult situation. Having said that, they do have a second option, which is great. You apply online, you upload your documents, if any are even required. You make your payments online, you do a booking online, you quite simply attend 2 60-minute slots. You have a guaranteed outcome, and you're immediately recommended to all your friends. So what was different in this situation? As you can see from the channels, they use multiple different channels, and they managed to work around probably one of the most difficult or strict legal processes that there is, identity. So they make use of websites to transfer information, SMS quite simply for the updates and confirming everything, which further improves confidence on the customer side that something's actually happening. And then e-banking, again, another channel that plugs obviously into their back-end system. And then finished with physical, because it is something that does actually require a physical presence. So yeah, Department of Home Affairs, potentially what bad looks like, but also what good can look like. And yeah, just some other examples. I mean, I'm sure you've all ordered things recently. There's nothing more annoying than when you order something that says that it's in stock, and then a couple of days later you get a system-generated email that says your item is not actually in stock and no real outcome as to when it will be delivered. So just think about these real-world examples, because the companies that we work for, we are dealing with the exact same situations. A couple others just to run you through. You're browsing a website and the ads are not targeted to you. Nowadays with cookies, etc., it's very, very easy to promote content that is relevant to your customer when they first hit your website or your mobile app. Another one would be your shopping cart. Quite a simple thing. You put a whole lot of products in the cart. You have to turn around to go and deal with homeschooling or a crying baby or something goes on, a meeting. You come back and all your products have disappeared. So these really are the basics, but they're just such good examples that if you get right, there's basically nothing to talk about. You just have a seamless customer experience. Okay, enough examples. Let's have a look at some success stories. So one of them, and these are very real, these are not Googled or made up from the internet. These are handwritten and real projects that we've worked on. So first one would be a leading African bank. Unfortunately, we can't name names for security purposes, but quite simply, this bank moved from a 4-day new account opening process to 45 minutes. And they did this by combining physical, again, because it's a regulatory situation, the website, mobile app, and SMS, which again sound like the basic channels that you would use today, but it was the way in which they actually managed to do it. So again, coming back to those diagrams in the beginning of the presentation, the secret sauce is to offer the correct channels in the correct order. So in this particular case, you can see that you would go onto the website and complete your KYC at home in your own time by uploading the various documents that you needed to do. Again, empowering the customer, self-service, helping them to help you. You schedule an appointment, you walk into the branch because you actually have to, of course, as we mentioned, for legal reasons. What's interesting here is that as soon as you sit down, the first thing that they do is take a picture of you. And that picture is automatically uploaded to a database that checks against the government identification system, does a lookup, and then verifies the information that you've already uploaded. And while this is happening, the salesperson can simply speak, have a nice, casual chat with the customer. Probably takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get done. And at that point, the entire process is effectively completed because you've done the work up front, and we have 100% verification using the regulated systems. The next step is to simply wait for your card to be printed. And in this particular instance, the sales executive would spend some time working with the customer, maybe taking them through a loan application, which was another thing we worked on. But by the time you finish that 30 to 45 minute discussion, you leave the bank with your bank account, with the physical card in your hand, and hopefully a loan if you were approved. Next one is the B2B example, which is the United Kingdom financial regulator. So I happened to work there specifically a couple of years ago and was involved in their Salesforce Sales and Service Cloud rollouts. And so quite simply, after years of failed multi-million-pound projects, they decided to change tack completely and try and take Salesforce kind of cloud solution into the business. So they manage government and market sensitive data, which is pretty much second to medical data, the most sensitive data that there is. And Salesforce ticked all of the boxes from a legal and compliance point of view. And then it's one of the global case studies that they have at the moment. So they don't have many channels. And this is, again, quite interesting. This is not just about having as many channels as possible. They make use of a mobile app, online chat, and of course their website. So the key thing, again, is coming back to it is the order in which you actually offer these things to the customers. So very simple, but an excellent solution, and sort of widely used throughout the United Kingdom, and very, very popular, specifically compared to the older systems. This is a quick one. So Takealots, South Africa's potentially best online retailer. Probably not a lot that I really need to say about this, but you probably use them already. What I think I've learned from Takealot is that I think they've done a great job of tailoring best of breed to the African markets. It's not easy for some of the bigger companies like Amazon to have a point of presence in South Africa for a number of reasons, mostly being scale. But Takealot's done a great job, and I think copying the foundation or the basics of what your competition does, and then specifically innovating on top of that foundation is where I think they've done a great job. So again, similar to the FCA option, Takealot doesn't have 100 different channels. They focus very, very specifically on website, mobile app, and SMS. SMS, again, playing the traditional role of notifications, and then the mobile app and website being, their business face. So you don't need all the channels. It's just, again, specifically how you use them rather than just having a whole bunch. So a couple of things to remind you about. Just going back to the various different channels. Social media as a channel to me is a double-edged sword, and specifically again with communities, they can work both ways. So understand your target audience and look at their social maturity and also the use case. Sometimes it can create the transparency that you're looking for, which would be to get lots of people interested in your brand and get them to all see the positive reviews. It really is a powerful thing nowadays. The likes of Airbnb and Uber, for example, most people buy, and they're designed for trust. So the more positive reviews you have, exponentially more likely customers are to buy that product. By the same token, the negative reviews, in a very public space that you cannot control and almost don't want to control, can be a really, really big issue. So again, have a look at your different target markets, and the maturity specifically is a key thing to have a look at there. Yeah, so happy customers, as we probably know, and just take a moment to think about yourself. Happy customers are not normally the ones that leave any reviews. They just kind of get on with life because they expect good customer service. By contrast, unhappy customers will often go to the end of the earth to actually leave a bad review and make sure that they kind of get their own back against the company that has been seen to harm them. So, thing to be aware of. And quite simply, just be practical and provide useful tools. So on this, my example is, there's nothing more frustrating than you work with a business as a customer, you go through a digital chat process or something like maybe like a ticketing system, and so far everything's going really well. You can feel that they are narrowing down your request to the right person to speak to, and you are filled with confidence as the process goes on. But sometimes that ends where they'll literally, this is real, have a message that says, thank you, we've determined that you specifically need to understand about a certain product. Please check our website. And that really takes the customer from a position of, great happiness to almost rage and anger. So again, it's just be very practical and think about, what would a customer like to see, rather than using the digital channels as pure cost-saving tools, because that really does not work. Okay, so just to conclude, omni-channel, as you can see, it really is the gold standard or normal, and it has been for quite a long time with customers. Customers do like to channel hop, and as you can see from the diagrams before and the examples, you really want to think about what channels you offer to the customers at different points of a sale. This, as you can see, empowers the customers, and that really is what this is all about, is empowering the customers to take the workload off you. Take the time to understand your customers and give them the tools that they want, not just the ones that save you time and money, perhaps. In terms of knowing who your customer is, relying on data, so that MDM type approach and the various different systems, that's definitely something to think about. When you find the right combination, as we said, your customers will do a lot of the work for you, and they'll actually go out of their own way to advertise your brand in the most credible way, which is word of mouth. So I hope that's been helpful. Really, I think the next step, if possible, is to, if you're interested, is to get in touch with us, and we can dig into your business and see how we can actually help you. So with that, I'm going to kick off into a video. It's short, it's about 2 minutes. We've got some great news, is that specifically in the Salesforce and WhatsApp world, there's now an out-the-box integration that's available. And we'll show you a quick video by Salesforce that explains a little bit more about what it is and how easy it is to set up. So have a look.
In spring 20, we're excited to announce Service Cloud Messaging and Einstein Bots for WhatsApp. Now companies can have efficient two-way conversations with the 1.6 billion WhatsApp users in over 180 countries. Customers get seamless support right on their mobile devices using their existing WhatsApp application. With the assistance of automation and the asynchronous nature of messaging conversations, agents can be more productive by handling more complex conversations and doing so simultaneously. This is all in the Service Console. So let's dive in and take a look. To get started, navigate to Messaging Settings in Service Setup. You can see right from this page, an admin sees all the channels enabled in that org and can add new ones. It's simple to add a channel. Just follow the Lightning setup flow. Let's take a look. With Lightning setup flow, admins start the process to add WhatsApp with a few guided steps. Admins start by selecting to set up a new WhatsApp channel. Once WhatsApp is turned on in the org, a few additional steps are required to connect Salesforce with your Facebook Business Manager account. If you want to automate and scale your WhatsApp conversations, Einstein bots can help. Admins either build a new Einstein bot or deploy an existing Einstein bot on the new WhatsApp channel. This is done quickly and intuitively through our declarative bot builder. So how does this come together for your customer? With messaging for WhatsApp, customers have the ability to search for and engage with the brand right in their native WhatsApp application. When a customer initiates a conversation, they are instantly greeted by an Einstein bot or a live agent if you haven't yet deployed an Einstein bot on your WhatsApp channel. If a customer's needs become complex, there's a seamless handoff from the Einstein bot to an agent in the Lightning Service Console. With Service Cloud, you can make it easier than ever for customers to engage with your business on channels they use in their everyday lives, like SMS, Messenger, chat, and now WhatsApp, with more channels coming. Quickly deploy new channels and scale service with intelligence and automation, and give your agents a complete customer view across channels, all built natively on the Salesforce platform.
Great. So thank you very much. Hope that was interesting. I think funny joke, jokes aside, I'm too old to be a millennial, but I know certainly from a lot of the people that I work with, if your company doesn't happen to have all the digital options available, they simply won't actually work with you. So with that, I was wondering if there are any questions. If there are, I'm hoping there are, because this is really about getting into the practical side. And if not, we can certainly schedule a workshop where we can actually look at reviewing the different channels that you perhaps have in your business. Again, looking at adding and removing the right ones to have them in the right place. Importantly, as you can see, integrating into your core business systems. So they're not just fluffy social media type things. These are real business tools. Of course, in terms of cost saving, automation is very important. So that's one of the key things we'll look to do. And ultimately, we'll get you to actually really meet your customers, to find out what they think about your business, where you can improve, and what they want. Because the more you know about them and the more they are part of your community, the closer the connection will be, and the closer it'll be a win-win situation. Great. So I'm just going to have a look at the the chat list. Let me see if there are any questions. If there are, please raise your hand and go for it. Okay, I'm just going to jump out of full screen. Great. Okay, thank you. Finally see this. Yeah, Tabelo, thanks. Tabo, thanks for the comments. That's very cool. Definitely looking forward to having a chat. I don't see any questions, so I'm hoping that means that we can actually have a face-to-face discussion and dig into your own business rather than the light touch thing we've shown today. So I think with that, I'll probably close out the session for now, and I'll let the rest of the team take over, and we'll hopefully be in touch having a face-to-face conversation close to in the next week or two. Great, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.